In the last few months, several Hispanic and leftist organizations have issued demands that people stop demonizing immigrants. Groups like the National Council of La Raza, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, Media Matters, and the Hispanic Institute are all calling for a moratorium on any talk about the Hispanic community that isn't glowingly positive. First, let's note that immigrants, Hispanics, and Mexicans are three different groups, albeit with overlap. But that said, we have to ask why. What do they think we'll find if we examine, say, the Mexican community in America? What are they so afraid of? A new study by the notably white supremacist organization, the UCLA Chicano Studies Research Center, provides some answers. They write that despite 60 years of lawsuits and billions of dollars spent to improve the education of Hispanics, quote, Mexican Americans continue to have the lowest average education levels and the highest high school dropout rates. However, the most startling finding is that only 10% of Mexican Americans self-identify as Americans. The majority self-identify as Mexican, with smaller numbers preferring Latino, Hispanic, or Chicano. And these aren't folks that just came here. The study covers a 40-year time span, almost 3 generations. We've seen this up close and personal, with both our blogging and in person. Recently, Fabian Nunez, former Speaker of the California State Assembly, said, quote, because of the fact I am Mexican, they think I have to sleep under a cactus and eat from a taco stand. Senor Nunez was born in the Logan Heights area of San Diego, and the last time we checked, that was indeed still part of the United States. When a USC quarterback and third-generation American was asked why he wore a mouthpiece decorated in the colors of the Mexican flag, he replied that it was, quote, a portrayal of my love for my race. He added that he hoped to inspire other young Latinos to do what he does, quarterback while Mexican. Which is interesting, seeing as Senor Sanchez, well, isn't Mexican. And then there's Charles Albert. We met Charles during the first amnesty tantrum 3 years ago right here in downtown Chicago. Charles proudly told us in perfect Midwest English, well, we'll let him tell you.
Your name and then just tell me all that good stuff.
My name's Charles Elbaron, and like I was telling my opinion about this whole thing, I'm 100% Mexican, and like I said, this whole, we can't face the facts that this country's going into change, and it's in our faces.
Note that not one of these individuals bothered to append or soften Mexican. They're not Mexican-American, Chicano, or plain old American. They self-identify as Mexican. To channel Dr. Phil, how's that assimilation working for you? It's one thing to be proud of your heritage. My dad was an immigrant, and I love the heritage he gave me. But he came here to become an American, and he identified himself as an American first and foremost. So if you find that you're a Mexican in America, let us give you a little piece of advice. If you get in your car and head south until you hit Texas or Arizona, keep going, and you will be home. Because you see, this is America. And while an American can be many things, of many races, of many creeds, and of many colors, what an American cannot be is Mexican, or Chinese, or Greek, or Pakistani, or German. So if you find yourself conflicted in any way about what country you belong to or belong in, do us all a favor and have the honesty to go to the one you love best. The victim, Stephen Rand Rouvet, 21, of South Carolina. The accused, Jesus Magana, 19, an illegal alien. The charge, leaving the scene of a crash involving death. The story. In the early morning hours of Sunday, June 1st, Stephen Rand Rouvet was driving home from his job at Smoky Bones Barbecue and Grill in North Charleston when he was struck by Jesus Magana, an illegal alien driving without a license. Rouvet was ejected from his car and died from the massive head injuries he received as a result of the collision. Meanwhile, Magana fled the scene, but police were able to capture him based on phone tips they received from witnesses. Of course, if our government had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, Stephen Rand Rouvet would still be here, studying at college and pursuing his dream of being a comedian, because Jesus Magana wouldn't have been here to kill a 21-year-old American and his dreams. And that makes this crime what? 100% preventable. The victim, a New Hampshire woman. The accused, Alfonso Mendoza, 52, an illegal alien from Mexico. The charges, aggravated felonious sexual assault and forcible rape. The story. The woman, a barber by trade, had been cutting his hair. During those visits, he had made several sexual advances, which the woman had refused. On the afternoon of Saturday, June 7th, Mendoza entered the barber shop and attacked the barber, pushed her down, restrained her by force, and raped her. Then he went to work. From his job at a restaurant in a nearby town, he called the victim to warn her, quote, not to tell anyone, and told her that the police wouldn't believe her anyway, because he speaks English, and she doesn't. Mendoza is being held on a $100,000 bond, and if convicted, will serve his sentence, then be eligible for deportation across our fortress-like southern border. Of course, if our government had been doing its job, getting and keeping illegal aliens out of our country, Mendoza wouldn't have been here to assault and rape a woman on American soil just because she had the nerve to just say no to his sexual advances. And that makes this crime what? 100% preventable. In that last piece, we talked about Alfonso Mendoza, a Mexican illegal alien charged with rape in New Hampshire, and the bizarre details of his case. Have you ever wondered why we see stories like this coming out of the illegal alien community? Well, we have. And the answer that we always come back around to is quite simply culture. Now, all cultures have their positive and negative qualities. One cancer-like growth in our culture, for example, is political correctness. The same political correctness that makes many people feel like they can't even ask a question or make an observation about another culture without being called a racist and a xenophobe. But for those of you who share our opinion that political correctness is for the birds, and yes, I do mean the birds that fly between your index and ring fingers, let's go ahead and ask the question, shall we? In Mexico, there is a quaint custom known as rapto, which is described as, quote, where a man kidnaps a woman not for ransom, but with the intent of marrying her or to satisfy his erotic sexual desire. Women's groups in Mexico fought for and won harsher penalties for this practice, only to see them reverted to minor infractions. One Mexican legislator described rapto as, quote, harmless and romantic. Or, look at a report compiled by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, which noted that there has been a 50% increase in sexual assault among the local Hispanic population. And why? Experts say part of that might be attributed to cultural differences. In many Hispanic cultures, it is acceptable for men to engage in sexual activity with younger women. Does that mean that all Mexican men kidnap women and rape them? No. Does it mean that all Hispanic men have sex with younger women? Of course not. It does, however, provide an explanation for when it does happen. And we think it's okay, as citizens, to speak up and say it's not okay for our government to import this behavior here by refusing to enforce our immigration laws. As a matter of fact, speaking up is more than okay. Thanks for clicking in to this week's episode of the Blogs4Borders video blog burst. And thanks for all the comments, feedback, and lively discussion you guys share every week. Don't forget, you can always email Jake with tips or story ideas. And just click on the Support Blogs4Borders button over at Freedom Folks if you'd like to support us with some good old-fashioned moolah. So until next week, be vigilant, be vocal, and be unrelenting. We've got a country to save.